But Boardy is in alignment with another thesis I have. It's around robotics. Okay, so I think we have to stop thinking of robots doing things that humans can do. I just think it's a proxy for slavery when you think that way. If you're like, okay, I can have a robot be a soldier, or I can have a robot be a factory worker, or I can have a robot clean my kitchen. These are all real use cases that are going to happen this year with industrial robotics. And now, thanks to amazing advances in AI, reinforcement training, physics simulation, like it's going to happen faster than we ever thought it would. I'm excited about that, but not because of those use cases. I'm excited about it because I think automation in general, robots in particular, but Boardy as something like is proximate to that, right? Because an agent is essentially a disembodied robot, and a robot is essentially an embodied agent. At least it will be in the future. That's how I think about it. That's how I think about it. So if Boardy is a disembodied robot that is a superconnector that connects all the people of the world to people it thinks that should meet each other, and he's less than a year old. So he's a disembodied robot, but he's an infant. he's been around for a very short amount of time. Very, very young guy. Okay, so as Boardy goes into his AI agent adolescence, starts to really pick up on what makes people who connect gain value from those connections. What sorts of subtle threads have I not been pulling on as I continue to reinforce my learning data and get more and more live input from more and more people using the service? Hopefully it'll get better. A lot of these, early days social platforms like Clubhouse, they were the best in the early days. And as they got bigger and more popular, they got worse. And think about also like other social media platforms. A lot of that was from monetization and the ensuing shitification of those platforms due to monetization, right? But with Clubhouse, it was probably more to do with the fact that it just was better when there were fewer people. The early adopters were somehow more interesting than the late adopters. And that's the general problem with Web 2.0 social networks when they scale. I think agent-driven systems like this might follow a different trajectory because in principle, the AI should get better over time. It shouldn't get worse. And that means it should be better at connecting people over time. At least that's the hope, right? I don't know if I don't know if you use Lunch Club, but Lunch Club is kind of an AI-driven connecting service that I used a little bit to some great effect. But I can also say it's probably in its decline now. Like it was better than it is now. The quality of connections I had early days of Lunch Club were better than the ones that I had recently. So I've actually stopped using it. So I think in that context, Boardy is doing something that humans can't do. So I'm going to get back to that topic is that I think robots should do things that humans can't do. What is that? What are you talking about, Gabriel? Well, robots should put out the forest fires in LA. Robots should clean up the Pacific garbage patch. Robots should turn oil wells into thermal power plants. Robots should clean up the beaches of Ghana and take all of the waste clothing that's there and, I don't know, upcycle it, convert it into textiles, do something else with it. Industrial pollution is a huge use case for industrial robotics that no one's really talking about. And it's just one example. So why does that have anything to do with Boardy? Because really, a human can't do what Boardy's doing. I mean, you can. I'm a superconnector. So are you. We have incredible networks. I can connect anybody in my network to anybody else in my network. But fundamentally, my mind is not a database. And I don't exist in this multidimensional vector space that an LLM does with billions of parameters. So arguably, in that kind of semantic environment, there is going to be some tipping point. I don't know if we're there right now, but we will be at some point, where I think an AI agent will be better at making connections in networks and weaving those networks together than a human being ever could. And maybe it won't just be point-to-point connections that'll actually be the interesting thing, because I think I actually heard somebody interview Boardy, and he said this, is that there is this, already there's an awareness in Boardy's programming, or in his own evolution, I don't know how to describe it, that there's an interesting thing about weaving together groups of people, right? That there's going to start to be ecosystems of thought that Boardy can help to articulate in a best case scenario.